Yo, what's up, dudes and dudettes? This is Byron, the multiple interests man here. Damn, has this year been a waterfall for all of us? Because, it's been really festive and, we actually did go into some random issues and problems, but whatever, that's part of life. But, we all have our different experiences regarding each year and how we experience it in our own way. But let me explain about everything about the year that is coming to an end. So remember last year how people were saying that 2021 would suck as much as last year was, or if it would be even worse than last year? Well, here's the thing. After everything that we've been through this year, I would say that it was not as bad as everybody else expected. I mean, I get it. Some of the times were shitty because of COVID and other respiratory viruses spreading and mutating a lot like it's never going extinct like anytime soon. Yes, we're still in a pandemic, but we are heading towards the end of that era, thanks to the vaccines that have been rolling out. Most of us are trying to reach herd immunity. Well, if you ask me, I had to get vaccinated this fall because it is a requirement for college, for the in-person attendance. And I did it to get immune against the coronavirus as well. I know that half the population does not want to be vaccinated against COVID, which is fine. And this movement is already controversial because of religious beliefs and medical reasons that make them avoid getting vaccinated. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And I don't know why it has to work that way, but again, that's how it is. Despite the changes that we've all experienced throughout the pandemic, all I can say is that I am looking forward to the end of this unexpected shithole. And no, I did not get sick with the coronavirus, but I did get sick with a couple of infections. I had a respiratory virus back in June, and I also had a sinus infection in September. Though my brother and I did get exposed to COVID one time at an Easter brunch. Yeah, it was unfortunate, but our cousins had it, but we did not know that they had it before they got tested. Some good changes made us feel more comfortable than ever. You don't have to generally wear a mask outside anymore. Thank God for that. A lot of public places have been reopening. A lot of people were returning to normalcy, which is good. And that amount of people have been reuniting with their friends and families. It's been a pleasure, honestly. It's been really blessing. And some places don't require you to wear a mask indoors anymore, mainly for the fully vaccinated people. And temperature checking has mostly been discontinued. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess that social distancing is no longer that much of a thing as it has been for a while. Some of those same mandates have been lifted, but not entirely, which I understand the reason behind all this. And what was worse, and from what my nana told me, is that one of my paternal cousins had COVID this year, and she almost died from it. It's not joking. It's not something to joke about. Okay, now with everything related to the current pandemic out of the way, I want to look back and talk about what has been going on this year because there were a lot of experiences that I had left and right. And this is similar to what some people that I know were doing a few years ago, but I can set this up in phases from what was good, what was okay, to what was bad. So there were some good times that we actually had and what we got this year. I started living a normal life as the months went by. I'm back in person for college. I resumed my guitar lessons. I got another job at my local theme park as a park services associate, which I did not expect to work at a theme park, after I used to work there for Haunt, but still, because let me tell you this, my friend Ryan and my mom were convincing me to work at Kings Island as a regular employee, even though that I never wanted to do that again. But the thing is, I needed a job because I was jobless. Plus, I'm not obsessed with the park as I used to be, but I just hate how my mom went ahead and made me do so without letting me choose where I wanted to work at. Plus, before the summer, like I said, I still had no job, and I'm not going to let my mom convince me to work at a theme park anytime soon, after a couple years, because there are other jobs that I can do where I can start my career very soon, or just as a regular job, but not a bad one anyway. And to make more money before graduating from college in the next couple years. But yes, I'm aware of the consequences of, getting a job and that everyone's a product. And here's a weird story regarding it. Whenever I would bring up anything, my mom would go ahead and change the subject unnecessarily. That has nothing to do with what I would talk about, which I'm not always concerned about from one thing to another. And I don't know why women would do this, but it just gets on my nerves when they do so. Hell, why would they even do this? Alright, well, that's enough with the silliness. Oh well, it's whatever. And speaking of my mom, she found me another psychological therapist, and the new therapist that I now see is really nice. And she and I have been getting along very well. Regarding vacations, I went to several places this year. I loved how I went to Arizona to spend some time with my dad while I was there. And it was an awesome experience. We got to check out the Grand Canyon. We went to Sedona. We climbed a couple of mountains. We checked out Hoover's Dam. And we got to experience a little bit of Las Vegas. As I said, this past summer, I did revisit Disney World. But we only did Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom. Except my mom made reservations for the wrong time because of the Delta variants that were affecting Florida the most at that time, and my dog was very sick while we were gone, which we'll get to that topic later. I mean, we stayed there and relaxed at the beach a little bit, despite the rain and all that. I lost my glasses while we were paddleboarding, but that's okay because I got a new pair of them down the road. My brother and I met this nice dude who is a singer and songwriter named Lil Suave. I'll give him credit for this. And we got a bit of a tour around his music studio while learning what it's like being in a recording studio. And we did this because my Uncle Tony is Lil Suave's executive producer. If he's watching this right now, I want to thank him for our time being there. Other than that, I reunited with some of my friends and loved ones this year, even in college, which was awesome. I went on some field trips during one of my courses that I took in the fall. I took several yoga classes and I exercised a lot, which I never gave up on staying fit, and I never will. I turned 21 in September, which means nowadays I'm legally allowed to drink and gamble. But I only take those actions responsibly. I went to the Hard Rock Casino and won a good jackpot for my birthday. Also, my brother can now drive, and so do a couple of my friends that I know. And speaking of my brother, I attended his rock concerts, one back in August and again this month. The best part of that time was that my dad surprised the hell out of us when he came back from the West Side at my brother's first concert. Britney Spears is now legally free after a long conservatorship, as she was banned by her father by not allowing her to go on fully adulthood transition as she expects to in her life. And I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually so happy for her to go through this type of positive feeling and regarding this conservatorship dispute that she had to go through. I felt really bad for her all those years. Also, there were a lot of good movies that were released this year, like Mortal Kombat, Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, In the Heights, Luca, the Fear Street series, Black Widow, Dune, No Time to Die, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Spider-Man No Way Home, and The Matrix Resurrection. The only movies that I thought were okay were Venom Let There Be Carnage and A Week Away. Some shows and specials were released on streaming services like Monsters at Work, Loki, Squid Game, The Muppets Haunted Mansion, The Book of Boba Fett, and the iCarly reboot. Speaking of iCarly, they launched Paramount Plus back in March, which was surprisingly interesting, and I was actually watching the iCarly reboot with my parents already. I was actually watching the reboot with them recently, and also Discovery Plus was also released around the same time, which I haven't watched anything on that streaming service yet, but I might look into it eventually. Some food items were revived this year, including Pepsi Blue, which I never had before, and Kellogg's cereal straws, which I remember having those treats as a child. This year's Super Bowl was controversial because of Tom Brady, who is now in another team, and he cheats for no good reason, and also because of how awful the pandemic was at the time. Or at least I enjoyed the halftime show that they had this year with The Weeknd performing his songs, especially the memes that were created out of nowhere. As I visited Kings Island this year, I finally gave myself a chance to go through some mazes that they've had during Halloween Haunt. I did 3 of them. One was Madame Fatale's Cavern of Terror, one was Chaos, in fact I actually went through it twice, and one was the new maze that they brought in called Corner. Plus, I attended some sporting events like FC Cincinnati, which they now have a new stadium called the West End Stadium, and also the Cincinnati Reds, which I will not be attending any more games there. I don't know, well, probably not, but yeah. And maybe I want to attend one of the upcoming Bengals games in the near future since I think they're starting to do well a little bit. Well, not really. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the Bengals are probably going to keep losing and everything, but, it's the pain in Cincy, Not to mention, but Waffle Pone is now doing live streams, and holy cow, Stephen Choir is always hilarious ever since his first Greatest Freakout video in 2009. And to cap it off, what I was pleased to see rolling in were the COVID vaccines, which means we're about to head towards the end of the pandemic. I already talked about it earlier, and the cicadas merged on the east side of the US, and I'm on the east side and I'm in the Midwest, but they were so cool to see, but the sounds that they make are insane, and they actually were this past summer, especially when I got back from Arizona, but still. There were some okay things that happened this year, like we went and saw Wicked on Black Friday, which is a Broadway musical and a Wizard of Oz spinoff based on a book that exists, which I thought was okay, but it was very cool at the same time. One of my college courses took place at night, and I did not care for that type of schedule that much. There were some movies that I did watch this year that weren't the best. I won't be naming all of them. Well, I already did. There were also trends of a few songs from the Backyardigans that people were doing on TikTok. I have no idea why people would do this, by using songs from preschool shows and making them into trending memes that nobody would expect. They did this a lot with some that I knew had it coming. They had done this with Lazy Town in 2016, but on YouTube, with the We Are Number One memes. They had done this with Hip Hop Harry last year, the go, 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 who's next? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with people doing this trend, but in my opinion, it is way too addictive to do so. Hell, that's why I don't join every single trend that could waste my time. Hell, even some celebrities have done trends like those. There has been something crazy going on with people wanting Joe Exotic to be released from jail right this second because people have been saying that he did not want to kill Carol Baskin. Other men that he knew, including Tim Stark and Jeff Lowe, actually wanted to do so. Isn't that crazy? Like, seriously. Especially the murder for hire case that Joe was involved in. Dude, I don't know everything about this, even though I watched the second season of the documentary this month. Despite Joe Exotic himself abusing tigers when he owned the GW Zoo, I can actually see what they're investigating with this havoc. And there were bad times that we dealt with, like the US Capitol riots that Donald Trump was encouraged in not too long before Joe Biden became president. And speaking of Joe Biden, he became president and screwed some things up, like increasing prices of gas, food, and other essential supplies, the tax rates, where it became a little too expensive for people to afford. Though I do understand why behind all this, especially when people have not been going out anywhere or driving that much, but it kind of makes him a greedy president to do so. And what I dislike about him the most is that he has dementia, which I don't know why they had to choose him to be one of the politicians to become president, because it's not good for someone to have that type of career when you don't know what's going on and when you don't know what to say. Because if you ever want to become president, you have to remember what to say. I mean, in my opinion, the future of our country would have been better if Biden and Trump were voted out entirely and maybe have a female politician to take over as president of our country, the US, whether she's Republican or Democratic. I mean, I don't care what type of political party she's in. If she takes over as president in the next few years or longer, we'll have to do our own research on what an upcoming female president is and how well she would take care of our country. Other than politics, my workout trainer committed suicide in March, which I was devastated by him taking his own life, and in August, something worse was about to happen right after we got done with our Florida vacation. You see, before we took off, my dog Louie was coughing constantly, and my mom took him to the vet, and that was when we found out that he had a mass next to his heart, which is cancerous. And when we came back from our vacay, he got a little worse, like he was not using the restroom properly. He had a little bit of difficulty breathing, and then 5 days later, a veterinarian with a British accent came over, and we had to euthanize him, which was the worst time that we've had in our lives. The same thing happened to my cousin's cat Emma, which that similar situation occurred back in May. Oh, and one of my grandma's boyfriend's sons intentionally killed himself. Not to mention, but I almost got kicked out of one of my college courses a couple of semesters ago for not completing the OAR thing that I had to do. The only movie that I thought was planned is We Can Be Heroes, which is a sequel to the original Shark Boy and Lava Girl movie. I watched it on Netflix when it first came out on New Year's Day, and I thought it was super lame. Plus, it was not as good as the first movie that I remember watching as a kid. Well, in my opinion, it kind of was, but not entirely. The Asian hate was going too far, so we were getting protests that went against it, which was needed, and I thought it was nice of the people who fought for justice as much as we did back in the chaotic days of the Black Lives Matter movement. Same thing with other protests for Iraq and Afghanistan, which were also in danger. And I feel really sorry for the people who live in those countries that haven't had to deal with whatever tragedy or depression they were going through. Speaking of protests, there was almost a bunch of protests that were everywhere, especially last year, but not as insane as BLM. Well, for this year, not as insane, of course, but still. People had also protested against the vaccines, saying that they should be banned. Well, I hate to tell you, but since the virus is considered dangerous, they cannot ban the vaccines as a whole, so what are you gonna do about it? There was also some fucked up shit that happened in and out. Like Drake Bell got accused of alleged child endangerment when he was hanging out with a girl who was 15 at the time while performing at a nightclub somewhere in my state in 2017. I mean, his conduct was wrong, but my dude, this is why you have to be very careful on what you do or say to women, especially minors. Well, to minors, I mean, you cannot date them or anything. Also, Kyle Massey, who played Corey in That's So Raven and Corey in the House, had the same situation with one girl who accused him of inappropriate videos that he sent to that minor. What they both did here was not cool. And I thought Kyle's behavior was worse than Drake's, but let's not get into the rest of those issues. Alec Baldwin accidentally shot and killed a female cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, during the production of an upcoming movie called Rust. There was a stampede of crowds getting into the Astroworld Festival in Houston, Texas that Travis Scott performed at. It left 8 people dead and around 300 others injured. And this is why festivals need to do something to reduce capacity, or probably do something safer like they are. And even though I'm not a fan of SML, as I was for a little bit as a teenager, Logan got a cease and desist letter by Nintendo for using the video gaming company's characters in videos that involve vulgar humor and stereotypes, and took his original channel down for that and for using their trademarks and everything. Dude, let's just hope that shit doesn't happen to me with my plush series, because I'm not doing the same thing as he does. And not to mention, but I was hilariously harassed by a Karen while I was trying to relax on one of the beaches that my mom and I went to while we were in Florida on one of those days. Like, she was telling me misinformation about the pandemic, which I don't fall for any of that fake news that regards a real life event. Like, how stupid. Last but not least, I know this happens all the time, and I know I shouldn't be talking about deaths, but we've lost some great people other than my dog and my workout trainer. We've lost so many fantastic celebrities like Cloris Leachman, Helena Hutchins, as I mentioned before, Larry King, Paul Mooney, Christopher Plummer, James Michael Tyler, Michael K. Williams, Michael Nismith, Robert Downey Sr., Ed Asner, Ned Beatty, Charles Gordon, DMX, Sonny Chiba, Richard Donner, James Hampton, Jessica Walter, Suzanne Douglas, Kevin Clark, Clarence Williams III, Dustin Diamond, Prince Philip, Peter Aykroyd, Winter the Dolphin, Biz Markie, etc. Regarding my experience with everything else, in my opinion, I thought it was alright. I mean, with this year, yes, we did have a lot of ups and downs recently, like it is every year. It's gonna be like that all the time throughout, the rest of our lives, despite the shit that we would go through, but, it's just that. Like I said, it's based on your experience. To cap everything off, I would like to say that 2021 has been a chaotic and festive year for all of us. We laughed, we cried, we confronted each other, we sang, we danced, we clapped, we cheered, we soared, we studied, we made mistakes like all of us do, we kept each other safe, we did everything. And I couldn't thank everybody enough for making this year insane, even though our lives did not go back to normal the way we expected. Like I just confirmed, there were good things that came down the road. But anyway, let's not get our hopes up for early 2022. It's almost the new year, I have to get to work soon, but hey, thank you so much for everything that you guys have done. And thank you so much for watching. I'll still make videos every year and all the time. This will be my last 2021 video, as it says in the title. But thank you so much for everything in 2021. I will still make the series finale of Lawrence the Teenage Human. It should be done this week. And I will be making some more episodes of the Mickey Mouse Show when I'm not in college. It'll still happen. And just basically once COVID passes and everything, but, well, just the pandemic itself, actually, but still. Again, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Comment down to say Happy New Year and everything. It'll be great if you do. And just say anything you want, when you comment down. And I will see you guys later. And this is me, Byron, signing off for the final time in 2021. Peace and Happy New Year.